through, so I'll move fairly quickly. We've had a lot of fun over the last year, working very hard, building a bunch of stuff, so I'd like to get into it. I'd like to start with DaVinci Resolve 11. We've done a major update on DaVinci Resolve. We've added a lot of editing power and a lot of other features, so I'll go through them. We've added dual monitor support on DaVinci Resolve 11. Mostly useful in the editing page and the color page. You can spread all your workflow across multiple monitors. New Mac Pros have got support for a lot of monitor ports built in, so multiple monitor support is really nice. And of course, we're Bradley support as well on MacBooks, so really got a lot of modern technology in there. So I've dramatically improved editing in DaVinci Resolve now. Just much more powerful. We've got audio crossfades, you can do independent audio and video in and out points, independent audio and video editing, crossfades, all that. We've got dynamic JPL trimming, much better trimming tools. We've got a much better title tool. We've got a lot more options for text formatting and quality of the rendering. And we've got plugins in the timeline. Last year we added plugins into the color page, but we didn't put them in the timeline. Now we've got them in the timeline as well, so you can do parameter adjustments. Might be a little high on the audio there. But the other thing we can do is we can keyframe in the timeline, so you can extend the tracks out, and you can then move keyframes around, do some lines and all the controls right in the timeline. So it's very, very powerful. And also, this is another exciting feature. We've got collaborative timelines. So you could have like someone editing and someone doing color correction, and they can both work on the same project and the same timeline. We used to have shared projects, but now we've actually got a shared timeline. So the editor can be editing, and the color grading can be color grading, and the editor can actually see the shots change color. And they can both be working on exactly the same job. So it's very cool. And remember, because it's a shared grading thing, you can have someone in London who could be doing the edit, and someone else could be grading in LA, and it would work. And they'll both see the updates. And you see the little red clips there, that means they've changed. And then you can accept them, or you can have a little update. So it's really cool. It's very nice to see. It's kind of bizarre. It's really funny. Also, we've added a lot of tools. We've got a lot of photographers who have been using our cameras, but they've been moving into this industry, and I think they're bringing all their photography skills with them. It's very exciting. But we really, they're used to using sort of certain tools, the way they work with raw files. We've really brought a lot of that across from, the way they work. So we've got a lot of tools in there for working with raw files and getting all the, highlight and recovery, all kinds of features they're kind of used to. It's kind of their way of working. So it makes it much easier for a photographer to come into the video industry. And also we've had a lot of media management for on-set, a lot of cards coming out of cameras on-set, so we can copy the media, check it for errors, and duplicate it on the multiple drives and do all that kind of media management that you do on set. DaVinci's really very common on set. Now we've got the ability to do all that media management as well. And lastly, the most powerful features. I mean, it's like 140 new features in DaVinci Resolve 11, but this is one of the coolest features. We can auto-grade from the color chart. So what we can do is we bring up this grid tool. You can see the video here, and we select the grid tool, we bring it up over the color chart, and then align it, and there's a bunch of selection for different types of color charts. We align it over the top of the color chart, then click the auto grade, and it'll analyse the color chart, and set the base grade for the color chart. So it's, it doesn't matter what the color science of the camera, or the color temperature you've got set to, or the lighting conditions, it will compensate for it. So it's a really nice little feature. So that's DaVinci Resolve 11. It'll be shipping probably June. We're very progressed on it, and it's showing on front of the booth, and it's a really great update. And I think it'll be exciting. It's a free update for all our customers, so they'll just be able to download it. So of course, DaVinci Resolve, uses capture and playback, and so we've got some new capture and playback cards. Last year we did DaVinci Desktop Video 10, which allowed a whole lot of new features. And we can capture and playback on Ultra Studio 4K and some of the top-end products. These new products replace our DeckLink SDI and DeckLink Studio cards. They're great for PCs, Linux, and of course the older Mac Pros. But they support the new features, so they capture and playback at the same time. You've got 6 gig SDI, so they can do SD, HD, and Ultra HD. And the DeckLink Studio 4K is $100 cheaper than the older HD model that replaces it. So it's a nice little update. They're shipping now. Another feature we've got, another product we've got is, these are kind of nice, they're new routers. Everyone's a little bored with routers, but these are nice new models. Because we've added 6 gig SDI, and these replaced the previous 2 lower end models of routers we've got. But we've built in a beautiful control panel in the front. They've got There's a 12 by 12 and a 20 by 20. The 12 by 12 is actually cheaper than the previous lower end model we have, and the 20 by 20 it's got more connections at the same price. So these replace those two. They're shipping now. SD, HD, and Ultra HD all on the same router. You can have 20 different formats coming into each individual input on that 20 by 20 router, and they can wrap them all simultaneously. But the nicest feature we've got is we've got a nice screen menu there, and we've got like 18,000 characters or something in there. We've got a lot of the non-Roman character sets in there, so you can put Unicode labels. But there's also a new visual routing mode where you can see the pictures, and you can scroll through the inputs, and you can see that there's pictures, so you can actually route by the image. So really nice little feature, and they're both available now. We've got some new mini converters updated as well. We sell a lot of these, and we've added 6 gig SDI to them, so they can do SD, HD, and Ultra HD. They're the 4 models now, so we've almost got all our mini converters now doing Ultra HD and 6 gig. They're $295, so they replace the previous models, and they've got down converters in them. So, like obviously an SDI to analog converter, there's no analog Ultra HD, but if you're going to composite or component, it'll go to either HD or even composite all the way from Ultra HD. So really nice, you know, you get to a venue and they've only got some composite video projector or whatever in the facility, you can still feed your Ultra HD program feed from your live production until it's down converter. We've also got a new Teranex Express this year. We've got a really big issue with moving between the Ultra HD and the HD worlds. A lot of program feeds coming into broadcasters that are HD, want to convert them to Ultra HD or down from Ultra HD. So, you know, we really want, as this stuff starts to roll out, we really want to make a great product that allows these two worlds to live together. And this is the first product we have with 12 gig SDI. 12 gig SDI, I mean, I love 6 gig SDI, it makes Ultra HD possible. 12 gig SDI lets us go at a higher frame rate. So for us, the advantages with 6 gig SDI versus 12 is they both enable Ultra HD. The 12 gig SDI allows us to go up to 60p. But it is higher power and it's shorter distances and it's higher cost. As you can see, the 6 gig products we've got lower cost in some cases than the HD products they replace. So I think in the future you'll probably see both coexist side by side. So the Teranex Express has 12 gig SDI built into it. It's dual linked in and out. It's an up and down converter. So that's really what it is. We've taken the up and down converter path from Teranex with a new scaling engine. We've built them into this product. It's lower cost, but of course it gives us that SD, HD and Ultra HD kind of bridge between those two worlds. And we've got an optical socket in there. You can add an optical module if you want. So you can see it's dual linked in and out, and the A link is 12 gig. So you can go dual link 6 gig to 12 gig and back. So I think it'll be a nice sort of bridge product. And it works the same as a normal Teranex. So if you know how to use Teranex, you'll be able to use this pretty easily. That'll be available in May, probably sliding to June, probably May. And the mini converters are all shipping now. The next product we have, which is, you can see here, is the Monster 2ME switcher that we've got. The ATEM 2ME Production Studio 4K, which is the big top-end switcher. The great thing about this, it replaces our previous 2ME switcher, but it's $1,000 cheaper. And it's all 6 gig SDI, so it all runs at Ultra HD. I'm proud of this thing because it's crazy. It's only $1,500 more than one ME switcher we have, so I think that's just nice. It's got 6 aux outs, and you've got all this aux routing in the front. It's even got the super source in it, so you can have the rendering engine's got 4 DVUs and 4 tiers in it, and you can do a composition like the multi-box thing and then feed it into the input. So all running at SD, HD, or Ultra HD, whichever you choose. And it's got 20 inputs on it, and each input has a frame synchronizer. There's other features it's got. It's got like some talkback built into it. It's got separate monitoring and program audio outs. It's got all kinds of stuff. There's multiple model views in it. It's a monster product. It's got heaps of stuff, and that's shipping now. So pretty cool. And they replace the older 1 and 2ME switches we have now being replaced by these two. This one and this one, a new version of it. So it's pretty exciting. So of course we really want a camera to go with it, as you can see around us. We've been wanting to design a camera for live production for a long time because I feel like all the cameras that you see at the moment are really based on shooting type cameras, and we wanted something that was dedicated for live production. So we've designed the BLACKMAGIC studio camera. It's kind of funny when we designed this because we wanted a small camera because with modern technology that we can make the camera smaller. But the problem is that the viewfinder is scaled down as you get the camera smaller. We really wanted the viewfinder to be bigger, so we kind of made the world's smallest broadcast camera with the world's biggest viewfinder. There it is there with an ENG type lens on it. Of course, it's a micro four thirds lens now. What that lets us do is if you're doing a fixed camera, you can just put a standard photo lens on it. One of the problems we had with designing a live production camera is that a lot of the EG lenses can't do Ultra HD. They're kind of SD or HD lenses, and so the Ultra HD size really hasn't started to happen. But Fujinon have this great lens here. It's actually a PL mount lens, but it operates, and it's a cinema lens, but it operates like a EG lens. So I'm hoping that there are a lot more options for EG lenses coming forward. But it does let you, with micro four thirds, you've got the option to be able to choose different lens mounts. So you see, you put a standard little photo lens on, and of course the photo lenses actually do handle Ultra HD. Because we've got two models, we've got a HD and an Ultra HD model with this camera. It's a great little camera. It's got this big 10-inch viewfinder. It's huge. I mean, you can't see the guys' heads because they're behind the cameras. It's great. Here it is here. It's just so nice to use. I can't explain how nice it is to use such a big viewfinder. It's just, and it's wide viewing angle. So when you're panning around or you're tilting it, you can still see the pictures. It's really bright. It's not a touch screen. So when the sun hits it, it doesn't get between the light and the recorder needs to start talking. You need to be able to see when you're on air. But then inside, we have to keep it off and you can change the brightness. We're using general aviation headsets for the talkback. They're really tough, really cheap, really strong. There's thousands of people flying around right now using headsets. So general aviation headsets are a fantastic solution for talkback, because you've got little cheap $100 ones, but you've got the big noise cancelling ones. If you're doing a rock concert, you put the headset on, totally noise cancels, and like you're in your own world. You're listening to the director, and you don't really care what's going on, or how loud it is. So it's great. We have a massive 4-hour battery. So in this thing, we put a 4-hour battery in it, so you can still spool out a little bit of optical fibre on the spool, and you can get that optical fibre from pretty much any electrical wholesaler. You can spool it out, take the camera up the top of the grandstand or wherever, even if you just use it for backup power, if the power goes out. But you go off onto the other side of a racetrack. I mean, I used to do horse racing when I was young, and dog racing, which is kind of a lot of class for it. You have to buy your own horse for that. But sometimes you have to, we had one camera that covered the whole thing, and then it starts way off in the distance. You just run out a little bit of optical fibre, and you're right over there, then start. You get a camera right there. There's no power out in the middle of the paddock. So you've got a big 4-hour battery. And I feel that 4 hours is long enough that you can set up the job and have the cameras all running and be ready. And so you kind of need a long duration battery, even if the job's only half an hour, like this press conference. It's a metal design. We've cast it out of magnesium, so it's really strong. A lot of these cameras are plastic. We wanted something that was super strong that really could stand up to that kind of on the road. And we've got the optical fibre connection at the top there, and we've got the SDI and NAB. There's a reference input, of course. A lot of people need to reference cameras. And it's a standard broadcast 4-pin power connector. On the other side, we've got the XLR audio in, and that's fan and power. You can turn fan and power if you like. So you can use like big boot microphones if it's a windy outdoor conditions. And you can see the headset. There's also the lens. If you actually use a micro four thirds lens, you can do length control of the lens. But one of the things that's very cool, I'll get to it. These are two models. The HD one's $2,000, that's available now, we're shipping it now. The Ultra HD one's probably going to be late June, July, depending on when we get the sensors. And that's the BLACKMAGIC Studio Camera 4K. And you can see the Ultra HD logo. But this is cool. What we've done is, the biggest issue you've got when you're doing a live production camera, of course, is you need to see when you're on air, so we've got the tail end. You need to be able to talk back, so that's great. But the other issue, the thing that's very common in very big cameras, is controlling the camera. You need to be able to change the iris and all these remote settings. We've got every feature of the camera is in this. And so what we've done is we broadcast the control protocol to the cameras from the program out, and that optical fibre feed that we send the tally and the talkback through also now has camera control through it. And it's an embedded packet. We're going to make it an open standard. It's going to be an instruction manual, so if anyone wants to look at it, other people can take advantage of it, use it. And what you can do is you get full control of the camera. You can see we've got the individual channels. So we've added a panel into the ATEM control software for our switches, and every switcher will be able to do this. It'll be a free upgrade, probably coming next month. And what it'll do is it'll talk to the studio camera, and then you can adjust focus, iris, all kinds of stuff. You can push the autofocus button even. Pretty much all the controls in the camera are available remotely. But the other thing we've done is we've taken a color corrector, which we kind of know a little bit about, and we've added it into the camera. So you've got now full color control. So you can see the top there, you've got a full color wheel and shadows, highlights, and midtones. And you can expand it out into a full DaVinci primary color corrector style layout. So if you know how to use DaVinci, you'll know how to use this. And it's enormously powerful to be able to do this, because you might have some strange lighting condition. These are video cameras. They're not like the cinema cameras. They're a standard video range. They output normal kind of video type images. But you might have a really hot, sky and you kind of got a bit of shadows in the foreground. Well, with the color corrector, you can sort of bring those shadows up, play with the gamma. You've got a full control over that. So it's a much, much more powerful kind of way of being able to manage cameras than just a simple CCU approach. I mean, you kind of got the CCU approach, which is very familiar to anyone who's done live production, but having this kind of extension almost kind of puts a dose of post-production into the product. And now you can do creative type of color correction, not just correcting the image. And I remember in the 80s in post-production, color correction really came of age, and it was like about not just correcting defects in film, it was about actually adding a look and adding emotion to the pictures. You're going to be able to do that in live production now, so I think that's pretty exciting. And this is all a free update that will come probably in May, and it'll be free for the ATEM switches and also an update for the cameras. So I think it'll be really nice. I think it's a really powerful thing. We'll be showing it on the booth, and so far everyone who's seen it is really excited by it. Next up, here you can see the camera more rigged. The great thing about the design is we've designed it to be rigged up for really high-end work, but also something that, say, a 20-year-old could buy. So you can see an example here where we've rigged it up with a big lens, and that's got the control setting features on it, so you can do zoom in and focus and everything remotely on the tripod. We've got one out the front on a professional tripod, so this actual camera is out the front, so you can see. But at the same time, community type stuff, it works in that sort of environment. It's got all the same features you need, and even to really quite low end sort of stuff like a school could use them. So I'm quite proud of this design. I think it spans quite a range of sort of uses. So gets us to this. Now 2 years ago we developed a cinema camera, and it's a great product. It's fantastic, but we designed this camera to be a nice small compact camera. To essentially shrink a cinema camera down into a small size. What people have been doing with it, however, has been kind of exciting to watch. People have been rigging the cameras up. And we've been discussing kind of why people have been doing that. Some people are suggesting, well, people like rigging up cameras. I'm thinking, well, I don't really think they do. People don't want Lego for adults. I think what they want is to use our camera, which has got great quality pictures, but they want to use it in a larger workflow. They really want to, do quite big jobs with the cameras. We designed it to be this, like a nice little camera. So we realised that there's a time when we actually design something for larger jobs, and almost lets this camera go back to being a very small intimate camera where you can shoot close-up type intimate scenes. So we've done Ursa, which is a camera designed for professional shoots. We've looked at how professional shoots are done, and I've really been thinking deeply about it, and a lot of the feature sets in this camera have been designed for that. Here it is here. So you can see there's a nice big close-up of it. And what we've done with the design is we've worked very hard on this, but I think what we've done is we've thought hard about it. We've really thought about how do people use these cameras? What are they really doing? We're watching people rigging the cameras up, and you realise that what they're really doing is they've got a workflow around the camera. This is actually the camera's the centre of an actual multi-person workflow. It's a creative work group. So we need to think of cameras like that. So what we've done is we've thought about zones around the camera. We've got a DOP zone, we've got an audio zone, and kind of an assistant zone. And we've designed features around the camera to take care of that. So you can see it's got a huge, 10-inch fold-out monitor. It's massive. I mean, it's just so big. There it is there. And it tilts all the way up, all the way down. So this is the DOP area. You've got all the features you need in this area, and then of course on the other side, you've got areas for an assistant and an audio engineer. So I think that this is, to us, it seemed like a very logical way to design the camera. So that monitor is fantastic. The huge monitor is bright. You've got features like zoom, you've got peaking settings, all kinds of stuff on there. And there's controls on the side, there's controls on the outside, there's controls in here. It's huge. The other big feature of this camera is it's user upgradable. You can see on the front we've got these big 4 bolts right here. The user can take those bolts out and just unplug the entire turret and sensor assembly. So what that means is that we've got a lot more power in the body than what's actually in the sensor at the moment. We can go beyond. We can go quite a bit beyond actually. I can't talk about how far we can go. But what we really want to do is, you might be Well, you know, like what happens if some new sensor comes along in the future and you think, wow, I've got to throw this whole camera away. It feels wrong. I mean, I want to put all this effort into the camera, all these big monitors and the cooling system. Last thing we want to do is really throw that away. So if you can upgrade the camera, I think you can, but I want the user to be upgraded so they can sort of buy a new sensor in the future and just plug it on. You can see the front there, there's those big bolts. That's the PL mount version. It also lets us choose different turrets. So we can have an EF mount, we can have a PL mount, and a range of different sensors. You know, we can pretty much put anything we like. It's got dual C fast card recorders. Now C fast cards are the new card. They're like CF cards, but they're SATA connections on them, so they're very fast. They're like little SSDs, very, very quick. We've got 2 of them on there, so you can keep recording. So when one fills up, it goes on to the next one. But also it lets us double the frame rate of Cinema DNG RAW, because we can bounce between the cards. So we'll be able to go at higher frame rates. Really, in a lot of ways, the frame rate speeds we can do are sort of limited by the media that we're importing onto. So, you know, that's one of those things. So I think the C fast cards are much more modern, and because they're tiny, we can fit 2 in there on the side here. Got built-in scopes. You know, we've been on some of the shoots people have been on, they have separate waveform monitoring, and often when you're doing, you know, like I was shooting, you know, a park and I had a city view in the background, I couldn't quite tell whether the buildings were in focus in the background or not. You can never quite tell the infinity focus point. You know, of course, if you've got a whole collimator and everything, you can do that, but a lot of people don't have that. So, you know, you're kind of fishing around, but everything's covered in focus peaking, and you can't really tell, is the horizon focused? So we build in scopes. So we've got the histogram for the exposure, we've got a focus peak kind of indicator in the middle. So it peaks up when you're in focus, and it's analysing the sharpness of the image. And also we've got audio at a time. So if you hear a bit of distortion or something, and you think, did I clip? You can look down and you can actually see a red mark if it's clipped. So it gives you sort of audio at a time. You can see that going on there. So I think having scopes built into the camera is fantastic. The good thing, you've got them on this side, but you've also got them on the other side. And they're independent of each other. So I can have, you know, a menu up on the screen, and on this side I've still got my scopes up. So people can be operating the screen on this side completely, and they're independent of the screen on this side. And of course you can get, on the assistant station, you can get video as well, so you can still see the pictures. So I think it's pretty nice having scopes built in the camera. Just, you know that everything's just perfect. Even though, of course, if you're running the EF version of the camera, then you can still do autofocus and stuff and control the lens, so it's great. Very high capacity cooling in this camera. In the back here, we've got water pipes and cool plates and inside it, and there's a heat exchanger in the back, and we've kind of got a really quiet fan in here, and we gently pull air up through it. You know, we want this body to be able to handle, the body of the camera can do 120 frames a second in Ultra HD. We've got to be able to cool that, because you might want to run that sustained. So we've designed the cooling and the processing power in this camera to be way beyond what we really currently need, and so we've got a really great cooling system in it. Through the top there, because you want to be able to run all this stuff with no fan noise. On our small camera, you know, when you're running it hard, you get a little bit of fan noise coming out. You don't want to pick that up. So the great thing about the large design is that we can put a big screen in it, and we can also run much, much better cooling. And of course, we've got the quick release mount on the bottom, so you can snap it on the tripod, which is what the BWC did then. And we've got 4 models. This is the great thing about having a removable turret, because we can do different things. And we've done some really crazy stuff as well. We've got the EF mount, because anyone who's used our current cameras can use their same lenses. We've got the PL mount, so you can use all the professional lenses, but obviously those lenses cost more. We've got the Ursa broadcast mount. Now that's a B4 mount with a neutral density wheel, and it's also got a different sensor, and that'll be available late in the year. But we really wanted to show that, because we had to design the camera with that in mind, but we also need to do a little bit more work on that, but that's a different sensor. So that really shows how dramatically customizable this camera is, that we can change out the sensor and the turret, and even some of the features, like having a neutral density wheel in there. You can't do a neutral density wheel in the big cameras because they'd be quite physically large because it's such a large aperture. But a broadcast mount lenses have got a tiny aperture on them. Also, there's a lens control port on that one as well. We've got it at the front. But you can see the right one is Ursa HDMI. It's kind of like the world's first camera with no sensor. We took the sensor off and we just got a cheese plate and HDMI input. It's a 4K HDMI input, because we thought, what if we had some other camera we wanted to plug onto it? So you can see here we've got basically nothing on the front. We've got a little bracket that comes with it, so you can mount some kind of camera on rails. And then we've got a Canon 5D on there. It's just the weirdest looking thing you can possibly imagine. It really looks great. We've got it on the front of the booth. It's very funny. But we're kind of thinking, oh, wouldn't that be cool? Just be weird, But why can't the Ursa be the Canon 5Ds or some other DSLRs, most over-the-top accessory you possibly imagine, you know? Now, if you're a teenager, I'm sure you're going to be able to get yourself a girlfriend or boyfriend with that kind of rig, you know, because it's just crazy big. And I can't wait to see someone doing that. It'll be bizarre, beautiful. But, you know, it's not like everything, you know, why can't we use it as a recorder? Because then you get the power of you get the scopes, you get the big fold-out screen, you've got the audio, professional audio recording, XLR connectors. I mean, that's phantom power on the XLR connector, so you've got quite a lot of audio capability. You know, the dual recorder, so you keep recording. So there's quite a lot of features the body has by itself. So it actually is a good companion for other types of cameras. Mostly we're thinking, of course, people might use it for remote cameras. So they're using the recorder here, and maybe the camera's up on a rig or something, even our current camera. Because the SDI input, there's an SDI input on the camera, and there's a program button on there, so you can actually bring an external video input up on the screen if you like, but you could use that input. If there's no HDMI plugged into this one, it'll use the SDI input and record from it. So you could run our cinema camera up at the top of a rig and then bring it down to recording. So it has a flexible range of uses, and you kind of start thinking about what you can possibly use it for. The Ursa EF is $6,000. The PL mount is $500 more, $6,500. The B4 mount, I'm not quite sure the price, will be later in the year, so we'll talk about that. And the no sensor version, the Ursa HDMI, is $4,500. It'll probably be available late June, probably July. I think it'll slide into July based on lead times and components. So it's pretty exciting. I think it's a lot of fun. You know, we really kind of had a lot of imagery about where we could use it and where it'd be used. And you can see, you know, we wanted it to be just as great with a large crew, but also, you know, if you're just by yourself, having that big fold-out monitor means you can just fold the monitor and pick it up, go around the other side, get another shot, so you can just move around really quickly. That's what got us thinking about the B format. Like, it's great for ENG type work. You could be, you know, filming this dodgy criminal-looking guy, and you can get the camera up high, and you can tilt the screen down. You don't have to climb up on a rubbish bin just to try and get to the viewfinder, because you can just stand there and you can be there all day, you know, filming, you know, up high because the monitor tilts down. And it's also good when you're shooting down low as well. You know, you can use it for independent film, and you know, you can tilt the screen up. So it's really fantastic. And you can see even with a standard photo lens on the EF version, it still looks great. You know, if you're a young guy and you rolled up on set, and you're doing some professional shoot, you know, and the client's like, you know, who's this guy? It's like, he pulls the camera and it looks really serious, and he's going to look the part. And that is important when you know you're working in advertising and you got some guy from some giant, you know, corporation. And he's like, who's this guy? Well, we've got the junior guy. You know, he's going to look the part. I think it helps him look professional. You know, and of course, you know, the youngest guys have got some of the most creative photographers. So, you know, I've always loved. I don't like class structure. I love the fact that we can potentially remove a class structure because the guy can really afford a big professional camera, all the features in it, all the on-set equipment, all built into the camera, even if he's using a photo lens. You know, so I think it's great. So that's Ursa. So the next thing, and the last thing we have, is we acquired Cintel about a year and a half ago. Now at the time, we didn't really say much about it, but we knew that the future was Ultra HD. We were developing Ultra HD products at the time, and we really only started to introduce some of our first Ultra HD products. Now, of course, there's three ways you can get Ultra HD content, and we know there's going to be a desperate demand for Ultra HD content. Now, they're not really broadcasting much at the moment, but our job is content creation. That's what we do. So our job is, who cares whether they're broadcasting or when they're going to broadcast it. The TVs are available. They're getting much, much cheaper. And at the size of the televisions, the DOTS French is actually getting quite low. If you look at the DOTS French on a large screen TV in HD, it's less than what a cheap-based TV was in standard. So we really do want to get Ultra HD to people. Our job is to make as much Ultra HD content as possible with our customers. So there's three ways you can get Ultra HD content. One of them is post-production, Ursa, DaVinci Resolve, Final Cut, whatever, editing, post-production. The other way is live production, cameras, switches, the whole bit. But the third way is there's millions of hours of Ultra HD content sitting there. 50 years ago, they were actually shooting Ultra HD without even realising it, because it was done on 35mm film. So we've been working very, very hard, and we've got a new scanner. It's completely redesigned. We've almost used the knowledge from Cintel and some of the Kodai people, but completely redesigned the scanner itself. We designed it to be architecturally compatible with kind of a modern facility. I mean, you really want something that's desktop mounted, but also we can wall mount it. I think that makes it quite different than anything that's ever existed before, but it's a very powerful scanner as well. I mean, it's a real-time Ultra HD scanner. It scans up to 30 frames a second. It's Thunderbolt 2 connection. We can go probably faster than that if we, not bringing raw through the Thunderbolt 2 connection. You can see it's a fully digital servo. It's a super thin design. You can see the Thunderbolt 2 port. It's really only got Thunderbolt 2 and HDMI out. and the computer does all the control itself. You can see we've got these beautiful digital servos, so when you lace the film up, instead of this sort of, the film industry used to be notorious for being bad at electronics. So we've like put the latest electronics we can into it. And it's kind of funny, we were going to show it at IBC, but we're like, there's no rush. It's not like, it's going to be scanning any film that's not already shot. But the bizarre thing is we had a lot of feedback at the deal event last night that people actually want to shoot film still. So I got this weird feeling we might help revive and make film actually easy to shoot. People can sort of choose it creatively. Because there is still a part of the market that's doing that. So that'll be interesting. But for us, mostly it's about getting all that Ultra HD content and transferring it. So with these beautiful digital servos, you lace the film up and it just sort of detects that that's what you're doing, and it gently sort of tensions the film up. And it's so gentle, and all these things you can do now. We've got diffuse light source. It's a spherical light source. It's got to be super bright so you can do real-time scanning. But it sort of covers up a lot of dirt and scratches and things like that because the light comes in from multiple directions. So it's really nice. You can see the 35mm gate there. And you can wall mount it. It's really, I think, a very flexible design. It's a very beautiful design. You can see it here. There it is. So it's beautiful. We even made our own cleaning rolls and they're the same colour as our logo. So I think it's pretty nice. Same with little tabs here. I'll leave it play. It uses just a standard simple utility here. You can see the camera. And it's, the other thing that we've done is, Syntel used to have this processing box called Image Mill. It's about 100,000 pounds. It was a lot of money. And it did stabilisation and grain reduction. Very powerful. Yeah, we've built that into this scanner. So it's going to be $30,000. It's almost like a work in progress. It's like, here it is, here's where we're at. How far away from shipping do we think we're going to really let everyone give some feedback on it and sort of have some discussions with all the guys who want to do the film, and then really work out, is there anything else we need to do? Got a lot of really exciting features in it. There's sort of accessory stations. It does non-real-time scanning, so you can still do pin register. There's a pin registration option we'll have later that plugs into here, and so chomps away doing red, green, blue, red, green, blue. But even when you're doing with the digital servers, even when you're doing non-real-time scanning, the spools still move constant speed while the film moves. So it's really gentle. And there's even a scratch lead in there, so you can generate a scratch track for post-processing. So if it's, using the archive market, you can detect just the scratches and finish, and then that helps the digital processing to remove scratches really much. So I think it's exciting. It's been a bit strange working on this because in some ways, using film is sort of a dying thing, but you realise there's millions of hours of it sitting out there in vaults. The most classic movies and TV shows that we have in the world, the cornerstone of our pop culture, is sitting in film cams. This opens it all up and rebirths it all. If you look at any of these online products like Apple TVs you have now, and you can see that everything on there is HD. It's fantastic. But that stuff that was shot and filmed before HD was even around. I hope that as the future goes forward, we can repurpose all the film to Ultra HD. We've done a lot of tests, and you really do get the quality of the film. There really is a huge jump in resolution from Ultra HD to just normal HD scan. So it's really a fantastic way of getting that quality of Ultra HD. And of course, it's finished content. It's already there. So it's pretty exciting. So as far as products for this show, we have DaVinci Resolve 11 will be June. The Decklink cards, the routers, and the mini converters are all shipping now. Turnix Express is in June. The Atom Production Studio is now. The BLACKMAGIC Studio camera is now. And the other Ursa camera is in July. And the simple scanner will be at some point. If people come to us and say, oh no, it's going to have these 5 features, that's urgent, we're like, oh, okay, we'll put those in. It might be a little delayed. If we're close to shipping, then it'll come forward. So my family will probably know more about the status of shipping date on that at the end of the show. We've got a chance to sort of show what we've done. And we can sort of unveil where we're at as a work in progress. So that's all about everything for us. So thank you for coming, and hopefully you like that.